Good morning, my dear kids. So in the today's class, in the ray optics chapter, we are going to discuss the reflection at spherical surface, or what you can call it a spherical mirrors. So today we are going to focus on the basics of that one. Fine. Okay, let me take you to the screen. So the chapter name is the ray optics, and the topic what we are going to deal is the reflection at spherical surface, the basics part, like spherical mirrors, concave, convex mirror, what it is, that one. Okay, let me. Okay, already in the previous class, we had a discussion on the plane mirrors. If you can recollect the image formation due to a plane mirror. For a real object, the plane mirror will form virtual image, and for a virtual object, it will form a real image. Now, we are going to take the reflection at spherical surfaces here. So now, is there any separate rule? No, the same laws of reflection will also hold good for the spherical mirror. So if this is the mirror like this, let this be the other surface is available for reflection. If a ray of light is incident here, so first we'll define the normal at various points. So here, what is the normal? So this will be the normal. What about here normal? This will be the normal. The normal here will be like this. The normal here will be like this. Now, if a ray of light is incident, how it will be reflected? The same laws of reflection will hold good here also. This ray will be reflected. Now, if a ray is incident here, angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Similarly, if a ray is incident, yeah. The same law what we had earlier, the angle of incidence will become equal to angle of reflection. This is incident ray, this is a reflected ray. This is incident ray, this is a reflected ray. Incident ray, reflected ray. You need not to bother. Here also the angle of incidence will become equal to angle of reflection. Angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Let me define those thetas also. So this will be theta 1, theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 2, theta 3. Angle of incidence, theta 4. Angle of reflection, theta 4. So the same laws of reflection will hold good even for the spherical surface. Look at this. The reflecting surface is spherical. It's having wide application like plane mirror. No, even this also will be widely used in the applications. Let's see that. Okay, now let's get into what are the best examples of the spherical reflecting surface. The convex and the concave mirror is what widely used in our day-to-day life. So what do you mean by convex and concave? So those surfaces we must have a better idea. First, let me focus on the. Okay, first look at this one. So I'll take a tennis ball, spherical ball. All of you know, lawn tennis ball it is. I'll take a knife. So this is the knife. So with knife, what I do is like I'm going to cut it into two parts. The parts need not be equal. The parts need not be equal. So when I cut it, so one of the part is get available. This outer surface, the green color one, what you see, that will become a convex surface. And the inner surface will be like some gray color it will be. So that will be in a concave surface. Or you do one thing, you can take a lemon, cut it, the outer part, yellow color layer of the lemon will be the convex surface. The inner part where the fiber and juice will be there, that will become a concave surface. Watermelon, the same thing. in the watermelon. The watermelon, what happen again? You have to take out that red color edible part. So therefore, I'm just taking a tennis ball. So if you take a tennis ball, if you cut with a knife, parts need not be equal. The inner curved surface will become concave surface, and the outer curved surface is called as a convex surface. Got the idea? There's the one thing. Huh? Then convex mirror we'll discuss first. What do you mean by convex mirror? How to get a convex mirror? For that, what I do is like I will take a hollow glass, that one, hollow spherical glass, or so like a thin glass shell. Where the inner surface will be silvered and the outer surface will be available for reflection. Inner surface silvered, okay, that one, and the outer surface will be available for reflection. What I do is like I'm going to cut it. Are you noticing this red color line? So let me cut this thin glass shell at this particular point. So this is the structure is what it will be available. I'll separate it. That will become a convex surface. Right? And this surface will be available for reflection. This surface will be I'll be using for the reflection, that one. Now the geometrical center of this mirror will become also like a geometrical center, like you can see geometrical center P will come here in case of this. Similarly, the geometrical center of the convex mirror, this is a convex mirror. This is a thin glass shell, hollow glass shell. This section will become a convex mirror. The geometrical center of convex mirror is called as a pole. Next we have also C. So C should be the center. So it's a plane diagram. I assume it's a spherical shell, thin glass shell, not circle. Thin glass shell. The center of glass shell is what we'll call that as a center of curvature. So what is the C? C will define it as I already pre-drawn so that we can save time, because other drawing such a diagrams, coloring will take more time. That's what before class only I had drawn it. Okay, fine. Able to make it out this one. So this particular structure now will become convex mirror. Okay, this will be the reflecting surface. Outer surface will be available for reflection. This is what the aperture of the mirror, what we call it. Later on we'll discuss in detail. This is called like a radius of curvature. This is called like a principal axis. What is the principal axis? The line joining the center of curvature to the pole. So what is the pole? Usually how we define pole? Pole, we should define it as geometrical center of spherical mirror. The pole is defined as geometrical center of spherical mirror. Okay, now, so what is the principal axis? The line joining the center of curvature to pole of a mirror is called as a principal axis here. A best example, you take a spoon, a new spoon, a steel one. So my son, you can see holding, and I'm trying to take, I took the photograph. My son is holding. So now you can see that this particular thing will become a convex mirror. Very example, you need not to go to the big research labs, just spend some time in kitchen. So many things which are related to physics are available. So my son is holding this particular spoon. This particular, the bulged part of the spoon, what will be like a convex mirror. I'm just using, my son is just looking at the mirror, that one. I'm behind taking, I took photograph. So how come this is like a convex mirror? Or the rear mirror, which is used in vehicles to see the vehicles behind, no, there is nothing but a convex mirror. Just like some very good steel bowl or like a spoon of this one. So this is like a convex mirror. Getting the picture? Okay, now similarly, we have one more called like a concave mirror, where the inner surface will be utilized the inner surface will be utilized for reflecting surface. So what I do is like again, I'll take a thin glass shell. I'll take a thin glass shell. I'm going to cut it at this particular part. Then the inner surface will be available for reflection, reflective surface. Find this one. So I'm going to cut it. When I cut it, no. So the inner surface will be available for a reflection. So this particular structure, not this one, this hollow glass pair, not this hollow glass. This part of hollow glass now will become a concave mirror. Reflective surface, this everything now will become a concave mirror. So again, the P, what is a P? Pole. P, what happen? We'll call it as pole. C, center of curvature. What is R? Radius of curvature. Even the line joining the center of curvature to pole is called as a principal axis, which is very important. The inner surface is used for reflection. Here, this particular thing. So now again, my son holding the spoon, he has inverted. So he's holding it. Now I took the photograph. You can see that this part, this will be like a bowl, no? I think which surface will be using? This will be the inner surface of the spoon is what we'll be using, no? Here. To like and I think I'm from India, so definitely this spoon will use to serve the curries along with the rice or rotis or chapati, that one. So here is what that particular curry will be there. I think the diagram is very thin. So this will be the drawing diagram. Fine. So no. Which surface I'll be using? Why it is not going? Yeah. So at least no. I brought a spoon. So which is the? This will be concave surface. This will be the convex surface. Very simplified one. Or you can take bowl, curry bowl. It cannot be plastic. Okay, let this be steel spoon. Some utensils, curry bowl. So many examples are there. Just we have to just only look at this one. So this will be again convex surface. This is a concave surface. Got it now? So we have that one. So this was the inner surface will become concave. And I can now treat like you can see its image. Its image is there. So it's a mirror. So this will become concave mirror. If I look at this particular part, if my head is facing, if I face myself against this surface, so nothing but I'm using convex mirror, it will become convex mirror. If I'm here and trying to look at this one, if I'm trying to look at myself in the spoon, then nothing but what happens, a convex mirror will come into picture. The same thing with a bowl. This will be again a steel bowl. Like that, several examples what we can take. The objects around us also depend. We can treat like a convex and concave surface. Especially designed we'll call it as concave mirror and convex mirror, which is widely used in applications. Got the idea? This one? So I'll show this. So this will be the concave, sorry, convex mirror. Okay, then this will become a concave mirror. Let's get into this one. There's a plane diagram. There's a plane diagram. If a light is incident, so this is like it's not an arc. Again, it's a bowl. Again, what happen? You should use like this. Similar thing. So now the light is incident on this particular part. So this is a reflective surface. The curved part. This is a reflective surface. So now what will be the I will construct so that the same thing. Practically it will be all. So this is what the convex mirror, we can say the light is incident. So this will be a reflective surface. So I'll call this a convex mirror. I may not able to show this. Let me try. Because somebody asked that one, so therefore I'm just giving some exact picture. And now what is the reflective surface? This one. The reflective surface I'm showing by the gray color. The inner surface of this, like a bowl, will become a concave mirror. So there's a reflecting surface. It is a three-dimensional diagram. It will appear like this. So this, what we do is like instead of every time drawing this three-dimensional diagram. So what we do is like we will go for a plane diagram. So what is the plane diagram? The plane diagram will take shape like this. So this is the reflecting surface. There's a one method is what I'm just following. So maximum, we will go for a plane diagram. So that will be easy for us to work out the numericals. Why plane diagram is preferred? Because it'll be very easy for us to analyze the numericals. There's a three-dimensional diagram. There's a plane diagram. So again, we'll get the principal axis. So this is the pole. There's a pole. So the center of curvature will be here. The center of curvature for this will be here. I think these are the diagrams what usually will come across in the books. Usually these are the diagrams is what we prefer. This will be reflective surface. Let me choose this. Yeah. Okay, these are the typical diagrams what we encounter in the textbooks. These are the typical diagrams what we encounter in the textbooks. This what when we go to the lab and hold the mirror, no, the mirror will be of this particular shape. So what is the comment we can write? There's a plane diagram. So shall we select it's a diagrammatic representation? There's also diagrammatic representation. What about this physical appearance? There's a major difference. So practically this, it'll mirror, convex mirror will be like this. This surface will be available for reflection. Concave mirror practically will be like this. But the diagrammatic representation we do like this. Getting the idea? So these are very important. If I directly start here, I think you'll be in a big trouble. There's a diagrammatic representation. Okay, this is the light. I think already we have discussed in the plane mirror concept. Like there's a bundle of rays, we'll call it a beam of light. So what is this? There's an incident light, bundle of rays, or a beam of light. Bundle of rays is called as a beam of light. Okay, let me take you to the next part. Okay, the same. Now what we do is like, I will take a hollow glass shell. So this should be the shell. I'll take hollow glass, thin hollow glass thin shell. I'm going to cut it here. Then this particular structure will become this inner surface will be available for reflection. So therefore I'll call this as a concave mirror. Then what is the principal axis? The line joining from center of curvature to the pole. What is center of curvature? I think this will become radius of curvature. The distance from the pole to the center of curvature is called as radius of curvature, R, capital R it is called as. And this will be incident light. The inner surface will be available for reflection. Inner surface of glass shell, a part of glass shell is what I'll be using for the reflection. This is not concave mirror, only a part of shell. This section is what will become a concave mirror. Similarly, now thin glass hollow shell, also like a thin glass shell, a section of that I'll use this one. I'll cut it, then I'll remove this one. I'll separate them. Then a light is incident on it. Now the outer surface is available for reflection. So therefore this will become a convex mirror. Again, the geometric center of the mirror is called as a pole, and the center of curvature. You take any point on the mirror, it will be at a distance R from the center of curvature. So this is called like a center of curvature. Getting the idea? This one, the distance from the pole to center of curvature is called as the radius of curvature. What is the principal axis? Line joining the pole to the center of curvature is called like a principal axis. And this is called like a aperture. Okay, let's see the, now we'll go for the, like a tracing, like a, how to, if a light is incident, if a ray of light is incident, what will happen to the reflection concept here? We have to apply here the idea of the reflection. There's a normal. Let's come for this one. There's a concave mirror. The inner surface is available for reflection. A ray incident parallel to the principal axis. Look at this ray. A ray incident parallel to the principal axis. After reflection, will pass through a point on a principal axis called as focus. I'll call this as this particular point. We'll call it a focus here. So what is F? This F is called as a focus. At one particular point, the ray will intersect the principal axis here. That particular point, I'll call it as a focus. The distance measured from the pole to focus is called as a focal length. That is what is small f. Later on, we'll define that one. That is called like a focal length here. So this particular point is called as the focus. If a ray is incident parallel to principal axis, you see this one. There's a principal axis, this one. These two are parallel. After reflection, the reflected ray will intersect the principal axis at a point called as a focus. Now, if a ray is incident at pole, it will be reflected symmetrically because the angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. See here also, don't think that everywhere the laws of reflection will hold good. There's no problem with that one. I'll stick on to that one. If a ray incident parallel to principal axis, after reflection, it will intersect the axis at a point called as a focus. No, if a ray is incident symmetrically, sorry, if a ray is incident at a pole, it will be reflected symmetrical because this will become normal. So what is this? This principal axis will become normal now. No, angle of incidence should be called angle of reflection, so that it will be reflected symmetrically. No, similarly, if a ray passes through a focus, after reflection should become parallel, or nothing but the principle of reversibility of light concept. If there's an incident ray, this will be reflected ray. If this is the incident ray, then this will be reflected ray. The similar idea. Now, what is this yellow color? This will become normal, no? It has to be normal. No, similarly, if a ray passes through a center of curvature, then what is the angle of incidence? Because this will become normal. Because this ray, what is the angle of incidence? What is the angle of incidence? 0. Angle of reflection should also be 0. So it will retrace path. So what is the conclusion we can make it? A ray passing through center of curvature after reflection retraces path. Don't say it goes undeviated. Angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. So it will retrace a path here. Fine. So these are the primary rays which I'll be using to trace out the image. So once again, I'll revise it. If a ray is incident parallel to principal axis, after reflection, it will intersect the principal axis at a point called as a focus. Then, if a ray is incident at a pole, will be reflected symmetrically. Angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Then, if a ray passes through a focus, if incident ray passes through a focus, after reflection, it will become parallel to principal axis. This is a reflected ray. This is incident ray. Then, if a ray passes through center of curvature, it will retrace path. It will retrace path. Because the angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Okay, now after this. No, definitely I'm interested how this distances are related. What is P, geometrical center? What is C, center of curvature? I'll focus. So the distance PF and PC, how they are related. Let me assume a paraxial ray. Okay, time being. Okay, what is the paraxial ray? Rays whose angle of incidence are very small and M will be very close to the P. Is called like a paraxial ray. So what is the basic idea of paraxial ray? A ray. Okay, I'll write it here only. Theta very small and M lies close to P. Then if for this condition, the incident ray will become a paraxial ray. Paraxial ray doesn't mean that it is parallel to principal axis. I think this will be wrong idea. Here for convenient purpose, I just took a ray which is parallel to principal axis. Paraxial ray doesn't mean that it's a parallel to principal axis. Means here, is it a paraxial ray? Yes, it is. Is it parallel to principal axis? No. Is it a paraxial ray? Yes, it is. So is it parallel to principal axis? No. Fine. So paraxial doesn't mean that it should be parallel to principal axis. If angle of incidence equal to if angle of incidence is very small and if M lies very close to the P, then this will become a paraxial ray. Okay, let's apply the laws of reflection. So this particular thing is called a normal, no? Then angle of incidence should be equal to angle of reflection. Then the ray is parallel to principal axis after reflection will pass through the focus. Let this be different. Since angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. Okay, fine. We know this MC will become radius of curvature. This is equal to R. Even PC is equal to R. The distance PC is equal to R. Then look at this triangle. So will this be an isosceles triangle? Yes, it is. On the reason, what is the reason for that? There's a normal, this angle of incidence should be equal to angle of reflection. Even this angle should be theta because this ray and this principal axis, they are parallel. So therefore, this should be this angle should be the theta. Okay, agree this. Then afterwards, then look at this angle. Angle FMC should be equal to angle MCF. Any reason for that? Again, look at this one. This ray is parallel. After reflection, passes through focus. So what can be alpha? Alpha should be 2 theta from the geometry. Alpha should be 2 theta. Alpha should be 2 theta. If alpha is 2 theta, then this angle is theta. Then this angle is theta. Then this will become like an isosceles triangle. So because of that, now what we can write is like from the triangle BMCF should be equal to angle FMC. It's an isosceles triangle. Then the distance FC should be equal to MF. I'll write this data here. This will be much useful for you. Take it here now. There's one thing. Oh no. F will be very close to the M will be something. M will be very close to the P. And from the isosceles triangle, so therefore what we can write is like a MF should be equal to PF, because M will be very close to the P. So MF should become equal to PF. Any reason for that? Because of paraxial. This condition is very important. Because of that paraxial condition is what I'm able to write that one. Let me shade that. As the incident ray is paraxial, so therefore M will be very close to the P. So the distance what you measure MF should become equal to PF. This is the one condition you put it. Now let me go for this triangle. So isosceles triangle. Then angle FMC should be equal to MCF. So therefore, what we can write, FC is equal to MF. FC is equal to FM, or FC is equal to FM. Write it here. Okay, let's come for that one. As MF equal to PF, so what we can write here is this one. So PF is in fact is equal to MF, so like here, MF is equal to PF because of paraxial ray. From this isosceles triangle, MF is equal to FC. Okay, let me write. What is PC is equal to? PC is equal to PF plus FC. Now, what is PF? Okay, that is the focal length. What is PC? That is equal to R. How these two are related is what we are trying to get a relationship here. And we know MF is equal to PF. If MF equal to PF from here, and MF is equal to FC. So therefore, shall we write PF equal to PF? Okay, so something happened here. I'll write the steps so that will be easy for you. No. So this FC is what needed, no? What to write FC? FC, I can write it as MF or FM. And FM, you can write it as PF. So I'll write all these steps. It'll be very easy for you. This PF, FC, I can write it as MF. Then further, MF, we can write it as PF. This will become 2PF. What is PF? We'll write. PF is in fact equal to, already I written, no? Why this one? Now, what is PF is equal to small f? What is PC? PC should become equal to R. I'll write one more step. Okay, some of you are getting confusion. PC is equal to 2 times of PF. So this is R, this is 2F. So finally, what is F? F is equal to R by 2. So how the focal length and radius of curvature for a paraxial ray are related? Different. So this is applicable for purely for paraxial ray only. Once again, I'll just summarize it. There's a ray. If M is very close to P, then this will become a paraxial ray. Theta should be very small. M should be very close to the P. This will become paraxial ray. Then angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. This is a normal. Then the reflected ray will intersect the principal axis at a point called as a focus. Then this is called like a focal length. The distance is called like a radius of curvature. How focal length and radius of curvature are related? Okay, let's see one thing. Due to paraxial rays, MF should become equal to PF. This is the condition. Next again, let's look at the geometry. That one, angle FMC should be equal to angle FCM. Okay, fine. Then, so from this, because of isosceles triangle, so MF should be equal to FC, or FC is equal to FM. Anything in this one. Okay, no. What is the distance? PC is equal to PF plus FC. PF, let me keep as it is. Then FC, I can write it as MF. No. What is MF? And we know MF equal to PF, substitute here to PF. What is PF? Focal length. What is PCR? So F equal to R by 2. This is applicable strictly only for paraxial rays. Like that, the focal length and radius of curvature are related by this equation. Okay, let's go for the convex mirror. Similarly, we'll see that how the ray for convex mirror. The focus for a convex mirror will be on the right side. So now, a ray incident parallel to the principal axis after reflection will deviate, the reflected ray will deviate away from the focus. Similarly, a ray incident at an angle theta at pole will be reflected at an angle theta, means it will be reflected symmetrically with respect to principal axis. Then, if a ray is directed at center of curvature, if incident is directed at center of curvature, after reflection, it will retrace path because angle of incidence equal to angle of reflection. This is normal, 90 degrees. If a ray is directed at focus, if a ray is directed at center of curvature, it will retrace path. Similarly, if a ray is directed at focus, after reflection will become parallel to the principal axis. The ray after reflection will become parallel to principal axis. So these are the 4 set of rays which I'll be using for to trace image for a convex mirror. To trace an image for a convex mirror, no, we use this particular condition. A ray directed at focus after reflection will become parallel to principal axis. No, what is this? This should be the center of curvature. So like this will be normal. If you want, I'll show the normal also. The normal will be everywhere. The idea of normal should come. Okay, this for a convex mirror, the image to trace out an image. Okay, these are the set of rays which we'll be using here. So here, a ray parallel to principal axis after reflection will diverge from focus. A ray incident at pole will be reflected symmetrically. A ray directed at focus after reflection will become parallel to principal axis. Then a ray directed at center of curvature will retrace path. Got the idea? This one. Okay, now let's these are paraxial rays. Yes, all the rays what all I discussed paraxial rays. So what is a, if a ray incident is not paraxial, we'll call that as a marginal rays. We'll call them as a marginal rays here. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's get into the some mathematics. Then I will come to the, I'll show the exactly the difference between what we mean by marginal paraxial rays. What all our syllabus is, strictly will confine ourselves to only a paraxial rays only. Marginal rays, what happen? Lot of mathematics will involve. We will try to avoid any discussion on the marginal rays. No, we have to just take help of the mathematics here. So huge mathematical treatment will be there. That's why we are try to avoid, or not, better say, not part of a syllabus here. No, I have. Let me keep it here. So now, what do you mean by marginal rays? So a primary question, let me ask, like, what do you mean by marginal rays? Okay, here the rays whose angle of incidence is not small and they're incident at a point away from the pole. They're called like a marginal rays. There's a basic difference between them. Okay, I can show it a very best diagram available for me. You look at the point of incidence of the marginal rays, they're away from pole, and look at also the angle of incidence, because this will be somewhere normal will come. The angle of incidence also will not be very small. Then the rays, what happen? Different rays. Okay, the red color ray is incident at some distance, blue color, then violet color rays are incident at different points on a mirror. They will intersect the principal axis at different points. So there is nothing called like a focus is not defined for marginal rays. Then similarly, if a rays are, see, both are parallel to principal axis. So the rays which are parallel to principal axis is paraxial rays or marginal rays. Nothing to do that one. It all depends upon this angle. So how we basically define, we'll just put a definition for paraxial rays. A ray which makes a small angle to the optical axis of the system and lies close to the axis and lies close to the principal axis, right? Okay, there's a basic idea of what do you mean by paraxial. Let me define marginal rays. There are rays which pass through the maximum aperture of the spherical mirror. Okay, these are some basic primary definitions is what I brought it. Let me show things like this. So this is what the definition, the books is what they're telling. Okay, now geometrically, I'm just showing what do you mean by marginal rays. both paraxial marginal rays, they need not be parallel to the principal axis. Where is the principal axis? There's a principal axis. I don't want to. This green color line is called like a principal axis, or optical axis also it is called as. Now look at the angle of incidence of the different rays will be different and will not be very small, and they will intersect the principal axis at various points. So we don't have anything called like a focus, that one, and they're not very close to the P. There is a marginal rays. What about the paraxial rays? The rays, what happened, the angle of incidence is very small. Fine. So you draw a normal. You draw a normal. Here also you draw a normal. Angle of incidence will be very small. Then again, the rays are incident very near to the pole. So this will become paraxial rays. Paraxial rays after reflection will intersect at a point. Three rays, all this bundle of this beam of light will intersect at a point on a focus. That is called like a, you can select a focus of a spherical mirror. For paraxial rays, focus is defined. For marginal rays, we don't define any focus. Able to get this? And what all our syllabus is for only paraxial rays. We don't go for this. No, sir, what will happen if I take marginal rays? Okay, then you can see that you have to take help of the mathematics and you have to encounter. Okay, okay, let me give the like a mathematics involved here. So some will take help of mass. Okay, I just took a paraxial marginal ray. So after reflection, so where do that? It will meet the principal axis at point B. So this will be called as, let's call it as a principal axis here after reflection. So what is alpha? Shall we write 180 minus 2 theta? The sum of in the triangle BMC. Theta plus alpha. Sum of all the angles should be equal to 180 degrees. So therefore, alpha is equal to pi, I'll write it. Pi minus 2 theta. And we know what is the distance, like MC should be equal to PC. And what it is equal to R, radius of curvature. What is R? R also let me define. It is called as radius of curvature. Then angle BCM, angle BCM BCM should be equal to BMC. Because of that, and it become isosceles triangle. So therefore, these two angles will be equal. So these two angles should be equal from the geometry. Then since what happened, like this distance BC should be equal to BM. Okay, fine. Okay, already we have derived no earlier case, that one, and MC should be equal to PC. Okay, keep this one here. Now let me apply the sine rule. So this BC, what we can write it as? BC is equal to, let me apply the sine rule for this particular triangle. This MC by sine alpha applying sine rule for triangle BMC. What do that sine rule tells? Let's then distance MC by sine alpha should be equal to distance BC by sine theta. What is MC should be equal to R. Later on I'll write it. Sine alpha, sine pi minus 2 theta. Then they should be equal to BC by sine theta. I'm interested in the distance BC. BC is equal to sine theta by sine of pi minus 2 theta into BC. Sine of 180 minus theta, sine of 180 minus 2 theta should be sine 2 theta. So further expansion, sine 2 theta will become 2 sine theta cos theta BC. BC by 2 cos theta or BC by 2 secant theta. Oh, MC, no, this is. I'll make correction. Yeah, thank you. What is MC? MC should be equal to R. MC should be equal to R. Further, distance BC equal to R by 2 secant theta. I'm interested in that distance PB. So this distance PB, what you can write it as? PC minus BC. BC is what we have here. So what is PC? PC should be equal to R. And what is PB? PB will become focal length. We should not define. Okay, let's still let me call it. Call it a focal length R minus R by 2 secant theta. If theta very small. So look at this very important diagram. For different values of, for different angle, for different values of angle of incidence. You can see here, what is angle of incidence here? It will be theta 1. What is angle of incidence? Theta 2. So as the rays, what happen if they are, as the ray approaches close to the P, what will be this angle of incidence? This will decrease. I think I am, yeah. Very clearly I can show things. No. As the ray approaches close to the P, as the incident point lies close to the P, this angle of incidence should also decrease. You can see from here, if I bring the incident ray very close to the P, the theta will decrease. But therefore, so as angle of incidence increases, then it will become a marginal ray. So now why these two rays intersect at different points? There's a primary question. So why the blue color ray will intersect the pole principal axis here? Why the red color ray will intersect the principal axis at this point? What is the reason for that? I have a formula, no? What is the reason we can put it? The reason is what? This particular formula. So what this formula says? It depends upon the angle of incidence. No? This F I'm going to measure from the pole. Go this one. If theta very small, then secant theta will become 1. Then F will become R by 2. Then it will become a paraxial ray. But if the marginal ray, the different rays will intersect the principal axis at different points. So therefore, for marginal rays, the focus is undefined. Only for paraxial rays, it is defined here. For different values of theta, the marginal rays will intersect the principal axis at different points. I think as the angle of incidence varies, the reflected rays intersect the principal axis at different points. It will not pass through the focus. The focus is not defined itself here. Only for paraxial rays, the focus will be defined. I think better I should take out this word focus here. So the focus is defined only for paraxial rays. Got the idea, no? This is so that angle of incidence should be very small and the point of incidence should also lie very close to the P. Then it'll become paraxial rays. Got the idea that the basic difference between marginal and paraxial rays, that is a very fundamental one. So possibility of asking such things. So you can take help of this mathematics. This one. So how do I come to know, sir, like it's a paraxial or marginal rays in every problem? I'll do mention for paraxial rays. By default, it will be what all we discussed, the theoretical ideas, everything will be paraxial. If it's a marginal ray, I'll do indicate. If I give this distance, vertical distance, if I give, then definitely it will be like a marginal rays. Okay, got the idea, no? So there's a primary difference between, so I have here, Y1 will be very small for paraxial rays, Y2 open will be some appreciable value. Y1 will be very small. Okay, there's a one primary difference between the marginal and paraxial rays. Okay, fine. So these are the some just only the idea of concave mirror, convex mirror, what do you mean by principal axis, what do you mean by focus, what do you mean by marginal ray, what do you mean by paraxial rays. So in the next class, what we do is like we will trace out an image, image formation due to spherical mirrors. We'll try to work out. So let me wind up the class. So there's like some just related to basics of spherical reflection of spherical surface. Okay, kids, like in today's class, we had a discussion about the refraction at the spherical surface. So first what happened, I think we started with the like a laws of reflection. Will they all good for the spherical surface as it is? The same laws of reflection we can apply even for the spherical surface. Then afterwards, what do you mean by concave and convex surface? So we took examples of a spoon and some curry bowl. They're a little bit easy, no? Like if you put a curry in a bowl, so tell me like in which region the curry will be there? In the concave region. And the outer part of bowl will become convex. So like that, you can remember what you mean by concave and convex. Okay, fine. So we just have brought an idea of what do you mean by concave and what do you mean by convex. Then after that, we went for the mirror, convex mirror, concave mirror, how to construct it. Then what are the examples, what we can get concave convex surface in a kitchen, that also I shown with the help of spoon and curry bowl. Then we defined principal axis, radius of curvature, then the focus, then how the like if a ray is incident at a concave mirror after reflection, where do it will meet the principal axis, like different examples we have done. Then in the end, what happened, we brought an idea of marginal ray and paraxial ray. So what do you mean by marginal ray? Where the angle of incidence is not small and the point of incidence will not be very close to the P. It will become marginal rays. And paraxial rays is the angle of incidence will be very small and the point of incidence will be very close to the P. For paraxial rays only, we define something called like a focus, F equal to R by 2. For marginal rays, we don't have anything called like a focus here. I think this was the conclusion what we made. So more about the diagram. So what is the methodology here for a spherical mirror? A student must be very good in drawing the diagram. See, like mere formulas is okay, fine. But you have to draw the ray diagram. Unless you don't draw ray diagram, no, the understanding of ray optics is not at all possible. So immediately what happens, you can practice now. If a ray comes like this after reflection, how it will move. Like that, you practice it. As you draw a few set of ray diagrams, you'll be more confident and you feel, yes, I know a little bit, I'm learning. Okay, tomorrow we'll again meet for the next class where we'll deal with some like how to trace out image for a concave convex mirror, mirrors formula and magnification formula. Okay, thank you all of you. Take care, bye, see you.